Hello everyone, today we are in the latest version of Chivalry Total War Remastered for Total War Rome Remastered, and in this version I've added a whole bunch of new factions that, some of them I haven't talked about yet on the channel. There are a lot of changes in the latest version, in the latest major version of Chivalry Remastered that I just released a few days ago. So first things first, we've got the Abbasid Caliphate included as a faction in the early and high eras. We've got the County of Portugal as an emergent faction in the early era that emerges upon the death of the King of Leon, who was also Count of Portugal. We've got the Kingdom of Pamplona in northern Iberia. We've got the County of Barcelona. We've got the Duchy of Burgundy, County of Toulouse, Duchy of Aquitaine. But in addition to all that, we've got some new factions in the north of the Grand Seljuk Empire, like the Saltukid Beylik, based at Theodosiopolis or Garin. We've got the Marwanid Emirate, based at Mayafarkin. We've got the Shadadid Emirates, based at Tbilisi, Ani, and Ganzak. And we've also got the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh. And today, in honor of the current events going on in the attacks on Armenia by Azerbaijan, we're going to be talking about the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh. What is this kingdom? What exactly are we talking about here? What province is this based in? And what era is it's present in? So let's get into it. Okay, so as you can see, in the early era campaign in 1072, the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh is based in Kapan, which is a city in modern-day Southern Republic of Armenia in the province of Syunik. So as you can see, this is supposed to represent really two provinces. So in the eastern part of this province here, this is a region called Artsakh. Okay, so that's a lot of where the modern-day tension between Armenia and Azerbaijan arises from. Artsakh was a province of the Kingdom of Armenia from late antiquity in the ancient period all the way to the medieval period. And in the medieval period, Artsakh was a sort of nominally independent kingdom of the medieval Kingdom of Armenia, the Bakratid Kingdom. And following the collapse of the medieval Armenian kingdom based at Ani, you had a few independent Armenian kingdoms that remained in the region. So these kingdoms included the Kingdom of Lori, which is between Ani and Tbilisi in the north here, and it sort of encompassed this region right here, all the way down to Parissos, Gardman. And you had a kingdom in Syunik that was called the Kingdom of Bakh, the kingdom of, also called the Kingdom of Syunik, and the controlling dynasty of that kingdom was the ancient Siunid dynasty, of course famous especially in the late antique period. But also they remained powerful until even after the Bakratid kingdom's collapse. And their capital was at Kapan. They had a capital fortress that was at Baghabert, which is near Kapan. So anyway, Kapan sort of represents the capital of both Bakh and Artsakh here. So actually at the beginning of the early era in the late 11th century, or in the mid 11th century, these are probably separate little statelets, Bakh and Artsakh. However, they are united here for convenience's sake. Of course, the title, actually, King of Artsakh and Bakh, was utilized later on by the nobleman Hassan Jalal, who was able to create a sort of united Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh here in the 13th century. So from the early 13th century to the late 13th century, there was a united Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh. But for convenience in the early era, it's the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh as well. And actually, there was a nobleman, Senekerim, who was in charge of the Kingdom of Bakh in the 11th century and 12th century, and The Kingdom of Bakh was actually a center of anti-Grand Seljuk resistance for a long time until Kapan and Bagabert fell in the late 12th century. So this historically was a pretty strong local regional power for a while until it finally fell to the Seljuks. And of course it rose again as a part of Hassan Jalal's state in the 13th century. In terms of starting position, it has a pretty weak starting position. You're surrounded by stronger emirates, including the Shadidid Emirates at Ani, Tbilisi, and Ganzak, which are united here, at least in for the Rome Total War engine. I think uniting the Shadidid Emirates was the way to go here, to make them as a sort of another anti-Seljuk bastion here, though historically a lot of these emirates were in fact sort of Seljuk created states, until of course the Seljuk Empire kind of tore itself apart, and some of these emirates remained as Shadidid Emirates past that date. So that's why they warrant a sort of independent faction here. We also have the Saltukids here. And the Marwanids as well, based at Maya Farkin. And actually these factions here, let me quickly toggle Perfect Spy. The Shadidids as well as the Marwanids have access to some Kurdish units, including Kurdish infantry as well as Kurdish cavalry, though in their starting armies they just have the Kurdish infantry, which are from Chivalry. The Kurdish cavalry are actually from the Crusades mod for the original Rome Total War, ported in. And of course the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh has the Armenian unit roster from Chivalry Total War that is mostly utilized by the barony of Kilikian Armenia, which starts here in a pretty weak position. In the early era, which of course changes to the Kingdom of Kilikian Armenia in the high and late eras. So the early era barony of Kilikian Armenia has pretty much the same roster as the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh, with units like Armenian medium mercenary cavalry, Caucasian mountaineers, and of course the unique bodyguard, the elite Nakharar cavalry. But of course there are other units such as the Armenian foot archers, as well as the Akritai, and several others. Of course, if you upgrade your spearmaker, there are the heavy infantry units as well, the sort of swordsman with armor-piercing weapon there and better armor. So again, the roster is pretty good, pretty unique. There are also horse archers for them as well. A little expensive, but a pretty strong unit. And actually, when in the next update, you'll be able to form the Kingdom of Kilikian Armenia as the barony of Kilikian Armenia in the early era. And the Kingdom of Kilikian Armenia has, of course, access to some more Western-style units, sort of Crusader, Frank influenced, including sort of Western-style knight bodyguard units, as well as just knights themselves, Templar, Teutonic, and Hospitaller knight units, as well as sort of heavier crossbowmen, pikemen, halberdiers, billmen. Those sorts of units are given to the Kingdom of Kilikian Armenia and not the barony, so you've got to upgrade to get access to those more Western-influenced units. And the Kingdom of Artsakh doesn't really get access to those, though later on, as the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh, if you do take territories like Ani or Van and Manzikert, you'll be able to reform the Kingdom of Greater Armenia. And that will be a formidable faction in this region. Additionally, before I sign off here, I want to let you know that you can check out links in the description for more information about the current conflict in the Republic of Armenia, as well as the conflict in Artsakh. So please follow, educate yourselves, educate your friends, and don't forget about what's going on there right now that the media doesn't cover very much. Thank you again. So that's pretty much everything I have to say about the Kingdom of Artsakh and Bakh. So please stay up to date with the conflict going on in Armenia. It's a pretty bad situation. I might make a video about it on my history-focused channel that's more in detail, but please keep Armenia and the Armenian people in your thoughts and prayers, and stay up to date with the news. Of course, the mainstream media does not cover this very heavily, which is very unfortunate, but that is, of course, due to political considerations as well as general intellectual corruption. If you enjoy videos about the historical total wars and their mods, consider subscribing to the channel, consider liking this video, and I will see you in the next one later.